Hello and welcome. This is going to be a divine partnership coaching video, and it's also a little bit of the tarot astrology stuff. Now, I'm getting a lot of strong pulls that this Scorpio season in particular, now they all do this, but this one in particular is calling to us to learn from Scorpio energy, 8th house energy, which is taboos and darkness stuff, embracing your darknesses, and the kinkiness of life, and learning how the other side lives, and things along those themes. The 8th house, in a house, I consider it to be the bedroom itself. Libra, which is about intimacy, I put with the bathroom, because that's where we are often most intimate and vulnerable. Now, the 8th house and the bedroom, yes, we are very vulnerable. And Scorpio energy in particular teaches us that where we give our tantric sexual energy to, it has a very big power over us. And unfortunately, I mean, all genders get pulled into it, but men in particular can, or if you're in masculine energy, you can often misidentify how do we even put it, like the consumption of sexual energy as love. And it's not the same thing. They do, like, here's the funny thing: you can have sex without loving somebody, and you can love someone without having sex with them. The thing is when you have sex with somebody that you do not love, or that does not love you, because it can go the other way around. It's not, usually if somebody doesn't love you, you don't actually love them either, but you may have limerence going on and believe that you do. Because we usually reflect each other, especially sexual partners. But the thing is, 2:34 on the clock. Thanks, Spirit. The thing is that you can confuse the two. Like, tantric energy, well, it's like a part of our soul energy. It's part of the universe. It is within all things. I mean, even a tree, like say an evergreen tree, in the right season, as it is releasing its pollen, that is sexual energy, right? And so too is a seed being made and falling to the ground and cracking open and growing. And to continue on with the delightful energy of speaking in parables, and you think about the seed needs the darkness. It's funny, actually, if you go way back, it needs the light and the warmth to become a seed in the first place, in the womb of the feminine plant. And then, as the feminine plant dies and gives the rest of her life to each of the seeds fall to the ground and they either are buried, or they have a process of burying themselves, or something happens, whether they were consumed by an animal and then it covers its own poop or something like that. It needs that darkness and that warmth, and usually the particular animal being or insect being that nature created to be able to give it exactly what it needed. It needs the dark and the cold and the quiet in order to germinate, just like we do as babies in the womb, in order to then get to a place where the outer shell is weak enough to grow through, and it cracks. And then as the frost starts to go away and we start to feel the warmth from the sun, as it starts to feel the warmth from the sun above, it starts to send up sprouts and send down roots, and then the whole process goes all over again. So Scorpio energy, which is also very much wrapped in with mysticism and the supernatural and other dimensions of all kinds, it comes to teach us that, there is importance in both sides, both the light and the dark. And because we have Aries and Chiron retrograde still, and we have Uranus and Taurus retrograde still, there's this extra pull towards, well, it's like not just embracing our darknesses, but being authentic in them and choosing them, like choosing which ones we will have, It may be that you are presented with choosing partners, like you recognize, maybe you stop, maybe Scorpio energy will teach you to stop putting yourself and others on pedestals and recognize that there are no villains who have no dark sides, and there are, no villains who have no light, and no heroes that have no dark, that everybody has all of them. And therein you have a choice in what kind of hero and villain you want to be, and what kind of hero and villain you want to be with, right? And in that sort of energy, it's really kind of a choice between, like, you're going to be facing your fears. This energy's already been coming in. You probably already have had a glimpse of it, especially while we went through Mercury retrograde in Scorpio during Libra season, and showing a lot of injustices. You may have felt unjustly treated. It may have been revealed to you how you were unjustly treating others, or that may still be yet to be revealed. Who knows? But more of those themes and patterns of the karmic carnival are still in effect as we enter into the new energy of the great unraveling, as the tops that we wound up with so many things begin to spin and dance across the table, as everything that we thought, well, here's the funny thing: if you thought that you had a foundation of any sort built up, Spirit is going to crumble it to show you how impermanent it all is at all times. It doesn't mean you've lost all of it, but it will give you a choice. Do you want to continue? There are no wrong choices. And the choice, if you choose to stay where you are, you will continue to be challenged to grow with the dark and the light and the heroics and the villainism that you have been interacting with. Or if you choose another path, either an old one renewed or a completely new one altogether that maybe you've never tried. It could even be that maybe you've always been in and out of relationships of some kind, and you'll be pulled to try being single for a while. Or maybe you've been too single for a while, and you'll be pulled to try relationships for a while. It really just depends on what you've been going through and what you choose. And here's the key thing: if you don't choose to face your fears and own your darknesses and eat crow where you need to and such, you're going to be faced with those things anyways. A lot of this, especially with this being the year 2020, and energetically, we're in a cusp where we're still in 2020 energy, but we're switching into 2021 energy. So we've got judgment twice, and then the energy of the Hierophant in the next one. And so there is judgment. You will be judged. You are being judged. You're always being judged. You are always judging. And that's an important darkness and light to acknowledge, and just learn to pray, to play with it, but learn to pray with it too. Learn to look at how that energy can be used in different ways, you know? You could use, like, judgment for one thing. Like, most of us think about being judged unfairly, or like a court judgment or things like that, and those are aspects of it. And there are times that we may judge some people. It's like some people are worthy of being given more chances and of assuming the best in them, and others are not. And it's not even really about whether or not they are like that, like, to the whole world. It's to your reality. Are the things that they've done, are they worthy of continuing on? You should still forgive. You should still move to where you need to go next, but is it worthy of holding on to it and saying, no, I will not interact with you anymore, because for my vibration and my path and my reality, you are not deserving of continuing to receive the benefit of my interaction or energy, or you are deserving of that despite the things that you have done. I can see your vibration and your being, and just like namaste means I see the light. The light within me sees and acknowledges the light within you, or that's a version of it anyways. You're welcome, that was free. as Divine Maverick says, please check out her videos, she's awesome. But the thing is, the Scorpio energy is very much based on what we fear most. And so we're going to be presented with the option. Do we choose to face our fears and own our fears, or do we choose to try to run from them? If we choose them intentionally, the energy will not be nearly as bad, and because we are choosing it, we won't feel so powerless to it either. Whereas if we try to run from it, or pretend it does not exist, or fight to change how we are viewed in that moment, then we will basically call in our own demise of sorts from that very energy. And a good example is like if you fear becoming one or both of your parents, then face that. Look at how you are like them both in good and bad ways. And then decide, do you want to stay like them in those good and bad ways? Or do you want to explore different ways that you are like them in good and bad ways? And remember, include in bad ways. There's nobody in this world, in this reality, that is all good or all bad. And the goal isn't to get to where you have no bad and are all good. The goal is to be happy with your bad and your good and to embrace it. For example, I can be very impish, and that can sometimes be a negative aspect. I do have to watch in many ways to not be spiteful, or Enneagram Type 8 thing, not to be vengeful, especially in my lesson teaching. But it was much more likely for me to be a negative lesson teacher when I hated that about myself, or when I tried to pretend that that wasn't me. Whereas it's much easier to embrace that that is a side of me and to be grace-giving when in that energy, as well as when I see that I've gone into that cycle again, when I embrace that it's not so bad, you know? There's been themes in my life, yes, where, you know, before I knew that I had a choice, that I felt like I was pushed into situations where there were earth shakes and rocks in hard places and moving goalposts, and that the only way to prevent myself from getting hurt or to help someone else stop hurting themselves or others was to teach them a lesson. And it was often vengeful by then because I didn't like being that person. And I have had different dynamics with control issues too. Even just the simple necessity of wanting to save people is a control issue. Even just not wanting to rock the boat or to avoid contrast and conflict, that's a control issue. And when you recognize and you own that you, it's funny how to word it, that you like control when it is consensual, and sometimes even not. See, that's the hard thing. And even I am not there yet to where I can fully own my darknesses, but I'm working towards them. Like, I do like having control and power in many ways. The irony is, though, and this is such a Capricorn thing, is that as much as I do like having control and power in many situations, what I really would like is somebody that I can trust to give the power and control over to and just be a delightful childlike imp enjoying my wonderful innocent child heart and knowing that everything else is going to be managed and taken care of. You know? And though that does not often happen, and it would be nice to feel like, well, how do I even say it? I think I've become so comfortable with being a lesson teacher of sorts that I don't worry so much about, like, there's not so much tension in it. And I embrace that that's one of my roles, and it's also a very Capricorn role too. But I don't I don't force lessons on those who are not ready anymore. And I recognize that sometimes even just having healthy boundaries of not trying to teach people lessons who aren't ready is a lesson in and of itself. Even just being willing to walk away or say, I'll see you when you come back to this dimension, is its own form of lesson teaching. And it's one that I avoided for a very long time. I mean, even with my DM, there were many, many times that many people told me, well, you got to just cut him off and ignore him and block him and do this and that and leave him in his mess and it'll teach him a lesson and he'll see the truth in you and this and that. And the irony is, I know that most of that is true, though I did not want to do that because that seemed harsh. And it seemed like, this is someone I love. I don't want them to have to go through that hard experience, but I also recognize that there are different energies to be in it in that way. And the ways it was recommended to me for the most part was loving. Like, nobody was trying to suggest that I be vengeful. Well, a couple people, but most people weren't suggesting I be vengeful. They were trying to help me refocus my thoughts and not get so caught up in the 3D of things. But I see a lot of other DFs and even karmics that get to that point, and that's helped me learn to say, okay, I have these feelings and I have these thoughts too. Though, is there another energy that I can do it in? And I waited. I would not take myself to the place of doing that stuff until I felt an energy of it that resonated. And it didn't like exclude the dark side in it or the light. And it's much more like looking at it like, you know what? If I could, I would totally, well, actually, see, the impish side of me says, well, I probably wouldn't, because just like rainbows being most beautiful because of all the rain and the warm sunny days being so wonderful because of all the cold days, even if I could save everybody from all of the hard, painful things that they go through, I don't know that I would anymore, because I recognize how profound it is and how profound it's been for me and many of the people that I know and talk to and see that they go through that stuff. Now, the giving heart of me, and even the codependence that still is in there to a degree, likes to say, oh, I would do anything to save others from that pain. Though it's such a profound lesson to have taught myself and to have been taught by those too stubborn to listen in the first place, that it's more profound when natural consequences come in, when you learn it on your own, And so this is the message that I'm offering to you for this Scorpio season energy as we're going through, is look through and see what darknesses and what light exist within you. Do you like what is there? Are the darknesses things that you can reframe and approach in a healthy way? Like, if you need to pull away from somebody that you've been trying to save and you fear that they're going to go through something very dark, can you embrace it as that also being something very deep for them and something that they'll be very proud of themselves for going through on their own? I'm seeing 250 on the clock, which is 7, and 18 on the timer, the moon, which is the unfolding path. It's learning faith. It's learning that not all is as it seems, and that you don't always need to know the why or the how or the when. You just need to know what your intuition and your heart say are true. And even if you find that they were wrong or that you change your mind later, it'll still benefit you to have just gone with that and let go of all the human trappings of why and how and when and what's their real intention and stuff like that. So take this Scorpio energy. Look within yourself. What are your darknesses? Can you embrace them? Are you comfortable with them? Are you ashamed of them? If you are, look at how they may have helped others, either intentionally or unintentionally. Look at how you have hurt others. Look at how you have been in the middle. Maybe been Switzerland when you should have been more assertive, or maybe you were ambiguous when you should have been direct, or maybe you lied because you were ashamed of the reality of the situation, or maybe you put on a happy face so nobody would worry about you, or things like that. Like, look at all of it. Look at all the things that upset you that other people do, and look for them in yourself, because I guarantee you that anything that's triggering you that others do, you do it too. Maybe not to the same degree, or maybe you reframe it with a different association, but we all do them. Look for them now and embrace them, and be prepared, because there will likely be a fair amount of call outs in some way, shape, or form. It could be you calling yourself out, it could be others outing you, it could be a whole manner of things happening. But either way, if you are willing to say, yes, that's me, I did that, I do have that, I do deal with that darkness, well, it's much easier to ensure that nobody can control you with it. And on the other side of that, we're all human, and to try to look at other humans and say, no, I'm perfect, I don't do that stuff, they're less likely to trust you. And especially if you are accusing other humans of doing inhuman type things, or not inhuman type things, but like of their darknesses, but not embracing your own, you're likely to find that you get a lot of karmic lessons all at once that can really crumble a castle, regardless of how strong the cornerstones were. So whatever it is that you may be afraid that others might find out, or that you need to face, that's what Scorpio energy is bringing in to make sure that everybody finds out about. So your choice is to embrace it, maybe talk about it, tell people about it, and start making progress on it, or to to follow the energy we talked about starting a few months ago, that it's going to be drug out for you. Spirit's going to make sure that which has been hidden in the dark is now revealed, and that which has paraded around as light but really been dark is now uncovered. So it's your choice. Would you like to go out onto the dance floor willingly, or would you like to be drug out there by the hair and swung around with some caveman woman partner? The choice is certainly yours. All right, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing.